أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
Alhamdulillah. 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 Wassalat. Wassalam ala Rasulullah. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abdullahi wa rasuluh. All praise and thanks are due to Allah. All praise and thanks are due to Allah. All praise and thanks are due to Allah. I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship than the one God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the final messenger of God, completing the long chain of prophets and messengers, including Ibrahim, Moses, Jesus, and all the prophets and messengers we learn about in God's holy Quran. May God's peace and blessings be upon them equally, inshallah. My dear brothers and sisters, Palestine is on our minds. Palestine and the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza, are on our minds. It is inescapable if you will turn on social media. It is inescapable if you turn on the biased Western media. It is inescapable, and it should be on our minds, for they are the suffering part of the Ummah. And they are not on our minds and in our hearts and in our tears, not just because they are fellow Muslims and brothers and sisters in Christianity. It's because they are being oppressed, because they are a nation that is being oppressed, and they are on our minds in particular because, unfortunately, our country is part of the oppression. Our nation, the United States of America, is facilitating a genocide. And it is something that we have to talk about. It is something that we have to be frank about, and we have to be honest about. It is on our minds because we are seeing that our Jewish brothers and sisters, that their faith of Judaism has been hijacked by Zionism. And it is on our minds, and we cannot be dishonest about it. We have to be frank about it. Indeed, that the videos that we see emerging, though, what we see happening and the genocide being committed, watching our Palestinian brothers and sisters, we are also seeing in their moment of tragedy, we are also seeing the peak of faith. We are seeing the height of taqwa. We are seeing the height of iman. That in a moment of tragedy, where people are losing their lives, what are they saying? Hasbi Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good enough for me. He suffices for me. Hasbi Allah, that He is the one that suffices for us. They are coming to the realization in a way that only they can, that this life is very temporary, and it is the next life, the akhirah, that will be truly understanding, that we all understand that is the better part of life. It is causing people who are not Muslims, who are watching these videos, to say, my God, look at these people's faith. There are stories emerging of men and women who are not Muslim watching how these people are dealing with the tragedy, dealing with the oppression, and that through all that, they still have the peak of faith, and it has caused them to be curious. What is this faith? What is al-Islam? And they pick up a Quran, and they read it, and they convert or revert. Come back to the faith. Come back to the faith of their humanity. Subhanallah. Indeed, my dear brothers and sisters, through their oppression, our Palestinian brothers and sisters are leading our faith now. There can be no doubt about it. They are leading our faith. There are so many things to say, so many prayers to make, so many actions we need to take. And it is impossible to get through them all or talk about them all in the short time that we have. That I just want to speak to a few that come to the top of my mind, knowing that there is much more. Please, first of all, understand this, my dear sisters and brothers. Please take this into your soul, that it is we Muslims, you, me, in these United States, no matter your background, if you are a believer in La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, please hear my words, that you have a special responsibility as being part here in these United States to do something, especially, as I said before, that our nation is unfortunately supporting a genocide. Unfortunately, our nation is engaged in oppression, or supporting oppression, I should say. You are here at this point in time. God subhanahu wa ta'ala put you here at this moment in time. He put you here at this time in history. He put you here for a reason. Don't forget it. You're not here just to make some money, get a nice house, drive a nice car, watch some YouTube videos, and die. You are here to do something with your life. And if there's a purpose in life, and each of us have individual purposes, not all of us have the same reason for being here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us on this earth for different reasons. But you can say communally, as a community, at this point in time, at this juncture, as Muslims, as Americans, we are here to act. We should be here to do something. We have a special role to play. And there are several aspects to the role that we need to be thinking about. First of all, for our country, for our nation, for America. We are here, I dare say, in part, to rescue the soul of America. America is losing and has lost its soul in the Middle East. It has been biased all these decades. It has been responsible for supporting a slow-moving ethnic cleansing. It is our responsibility to help stop that. Not in a way that is hateful. If we act out of anger, if we act out of spite, we are doing a disservice to our faith as Muslims. Our faith tells us act out of love, act out of courage. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be angry. And of course, I am angry. You all should be angry. But don't act out of that anger. Act out of love for country. Act out of love for faith. Act out of love for community. And in part, that means, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what those actions can entail, but let's get our spirit right about what we're doing. Our country is doing something wrong. In our country, this won't be the first time, by the way, right? This country, unfortunately, has done things in the past that are not right. The Holocaust of the slavery is part of this country's history. The Holocaust of the slavery, which still has its impacts today, is something that this country did, and it was supported at that time religiously by Christian preachers at that time. It was supported societally. It was normalized in society at the time. And it took a great upheaval to stop slavery. It committed that mistake, and it is in the process of rectifying it, I might say. It has committed the mistake of committing genocide against the American Indians, the Native Americans, I should say, and taking their lands and putting them on so-called reservations. And now, after the fact, 100 years later, whatever you want to call it, 150 years later, now America is realizing, my God, what did we do? Let not the mistake that is happening today and that has been happening for so long, for a foreign country, by the way, for a foreign nation, it's not even the United States, let not that mistake continue to happen. We Muslims have a special role to play in helping save the soul of our country. And I want to be very clear about that we have a responsibility to act out of patriotism. And I know people may not be feeling quite patriotic right now, but if you believe in the ideals at least, there is something to move towards. There is hope to be had. Despair is not an option. For us Muslims, despair is not an option. We have to move forward with a loving heart, with an acting heart though, and with actions in what we do. It may mean exercising civil disobedience. It may mean practicing your First Amendment rights to the hilt. And we are seeing such acts coming from our brave Jewish brothers and sisters. There is a group, I'm sure many of you heard, called Jewish Voices for Peace. They have shut down Grand Central Station in New York. They shut down Hollywood and Highland just a couple of days ago. They are acting, and they have shut down other major parts of different cities throughout the nation. They are acting because they themselves realize that this is being conducted in the name of Judaism. So let us join hands. And that's the other thing that leads me to say that one of the things we hear from the very powerful pro-Israel lobby, the very powerful Zionist lobby in this country, is that if you say something against Israel, you are what? An anti-Semite. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. If you say, hey, Israel, you shouldn't have bombed that hospital, you're an anti-Semite. If you say, hey, Israel, you shouldn't have slaughtered those children, you're an anti-Semite. They have very skillfully connected any criticism of Israel with being anti-Semitic. We reject that. We reject that. We will not have our First Amendment rights trampled upon. There is nothing that we are saying where we are criticizing a wrong that is anti-Semitic. And as a matter of fact, for us as a Muslim, we cannot be anti-Semitic. The Jews are considered the Ahl al-Kitab, people of the book. They are a respected group in our faith. So we are not allowed to be anti-Jewish. Yes, we have our differences, but we are, as every faith has a difference with every other faith. But we are not allowed, nor will we be, nor will our faith allow us to be anti-Jewish. I do not curry favor from anybody, any human being. I say that because God subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that. And so it is up to us to be with those who stand against oppression. You know, the Palestinian community there in Gaza, in particular, know this more than anybody else. They know that nobody is coming to their rescue. They know that the so-called Muslim leaders of various nations will not be coming to their rescue. And in the midst of one of the daily massacres that was occurring and have been occurring there was a Palestinian that sent a message over X or Twitter, whatever it is. The message read, "Tell the Muslim countries not to offer janazah prayer for us. Tell the Muslim countries not to offer janazah prayer. You know why? Because we are alive and you are dead. We are alive and you are dead." My dear brothers and sisters, we are living in a historic moment. And I challenge myself first, and then you to act, to respond. Will we rise to the occasion? Will we channel our agitated energy in a productive way? Will we do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to do, which is to enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong? And in the second part of the khutbah, we will explore some of those things that we can do. Khudwa Allah, ask Allah for whatever you want. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wassalat, wassalam ala Rasulullah, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abdullahi wa rasuluh. So yesterday there was a meeting with a very prominent politician who you all know of. I will not mention their name because I was told that that would not be necessarily the best thing to do right now for political reasons, but you all know this politician's name. And the meeting was held to ask this prominent politician, could you at least call for a ceasefire? Could you at least put out a message, because you have a platform, you are an elected official, in fact, you represent some of the Muslims in this area, put out a message that calls for a ceasefire. And the politician's response was telling. They said, I am ashamed to say that I cannot. I am ashamed to say that I cannot. Why are you ashamed? Because if I do so, the other side will go ballistic. The power of the pro-Israel Zionist side won't even allow for a ceasefire, for the stopping of a genocide. Not even stop, to call for the stopping of a genocide. And so, my dear sisters and brothers, this is what we are up against. And I liken it, in part to the state of the way the Muslims were at the beginning of the faith during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they were there in Mecca in the first dozen or so years, when they were weak, when the Muslims used to have to hide in order to pray, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he would pray at the Kaaba and the innards of a slaughtered goat would be thrown on his head, and they couldn't respond. We Muslims, yes, in these United States, yes, are not in a position of power. Maybe at some future point, in some future time, we can walk into a politician's office in a dignified way, in a right way, and say, this has to be said, and they will respond. But that, unfortunately, is not today. Inshallah, one day it will. Inshallah, one day it will, but it's not today. And that's why we have to build allies, not just now or future or whatever, in general, allies with our Jewish brothers and sisters, with our Christian brothers and sisters. That is one of the things that we need to do. But nevertheless, our voice must be heard. It must be clear. And one of the things that we have for you today, after this khutbah, outside on the front desk there, is a printed letter to at least one congressman, Congressman Adam Schiff, who's running for U.S. Senate, to send them a letter. And if you live in his district, and I think some of you might, whether that's Atwater Village, Burbank, East Hollywood, Echo Park, Elysian Park, Fairfax, Glendale, Griffith Park, Hancock Park, Hollywood, Hollywood Hills. There's a number of areas. I won't go through all of them. If you live in the 30th Congressional District, take that letter, sign it, put your name on it. Don't be afraid. Put your name on it and let him know that you are calling for him to call for a ceasefire. Let him know that there are Muslims in his district that have a voice. And there are Muslims in this district and in California that are voting. There are practical steps to take, my dear brothers and sisters. And if you don't live in the district, let us know. Send us an email at info@islamiccenter.com, info@islamiccenter.com. We will send you a letter that you can use that's a form letter that you send, and you find your congressperson for your district, and you will get a letter and you can send it to your congressperson. People must know. Now, if you think, oh, that's just something that, who's going to read that letter? What's going to be said? Let me tell you something. There's a congresswoman in New York named Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Okay, some of you may have AOC or what have you. She made a video at the outset of this post October 7th or whatever start of things, And she said she has never received so many phone calls and letters from people who are pro-Palestinian as ever before. And she said something that was quite interesting. She said, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Don't think that your voice will not make a difference, no matter how small, no matter how, sending an email or a letter, it makes a difference. And by the way, that letter that you'll have back there and that it can be emailed to you, it is being talked about and being distributed at mosques around Southern California right now. If every one of you here and every one of our fellow brothers and sisters in other mosques do it, come on now. Our voice can be heard. Something can spark. Something can change. The second thing is exercise your First Amendment rights. We are not anti-Jewish, but we are certainly anti-Zionist. We are not going to have our voices swept under the rug. And it is a risky time, especially for our college students. There's actually it's a group called ICSC, Israel on College Campuses, or something like that, that has been funded by very strong Zionist pro-Israel supporters that actually investigate anybody who they deem to be to come up with threatening speech against Israel. It's a risky proposition to be a pro-Palestinian person on a college campus. But yet it still happens. Yet it still occurs. And as a matter of fact, the state of Florida made a law outlawing one of the groups, Students for Justice for Palestine, in violation of their First Amendment rights. And that's one of the things they do. They enact laws at a certain level, city, state level, even federal level, banking on intimidating people until it gets challenged in the Supreme Court and then overturned. And there's the BDS movement, boycott, divest, and sanction, to not buy basically products that are sanctioned or made in Israel. There are laws trying to be created, and there is a law in California, I researched it, that says anybody who is a state, does business with the state, can't be participating in such a movement. That law is being challenged. That law is being challenged. Don't let the voices of hate intimidate you. Don't let the voices that are against us intimidate you. And let me also say this, now more than ever, you have to support your mosques. You have to support your organizations. CARE, Impact, this Islamic Center. These are the safe harbors. This is the place where we come together. This is the place where we learn. They will seek to attack us. They will seek to mischaracterize us. These are the houses of worship and the institutions that need to be strengthened by you, the Muslims, so they can grow, so they can become better, so they can speak for us, so they can make and effect change. There is a table in the back today for this Islamic Center to donate, to become a monthly giver. I encourage each and every one of you to become a monthly donor to this Islamic Center and to any other organization, Muslim organization that you deem is the right one. Finally, my dear sisters and brothers, in Surah Al-Baqarah, second chapter of the Quran, in verses 30 through 33, God subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the creation of humanity. He says, I won't go through the verses specifically, I won't read them specifically, but he tells the story of it. I'm paraphrasing the verses, that is, when he told the angels, I am going to create humans that shall inherit this earth. The angels replied to him, saying, Oh Allah, you're going to create a being that's going to create bloodshed? You're going to create a being that's not going to extol your name the way we extol your name? We, the angels who praise you and love you and worship, these human beings are going to create bloodshed on earth? Why is that the case? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's response was, I know what you do not know. I know what you do not know. And so why there is bloodshed on this earth, why things happen, and we are seeing the manifestation of it now. And we see it in Ukraine, and we see it in the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we see it in Rwanda, and we see it in Yemen. We see this is unfortunately part of humanity. And we cannot understand why, and that is okay. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. But let us who do understand the concept of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be, to enjoin what is right, to forbid what is wrong, let us stand on the cause of righteousness. Let us stand with the cause of doing good, of helping our fellow human beings, no matter of what persuasion. Let us stand on the cause of that. And finally, there's a video that I saw of a man, a Palestinian man, some of you have probably seen this video, at the basement of a hospital in Palestine. This is just a few weeks ago. And he was chiding another man this other man had just lost his children in a bombing. And the man was crying. And this other man said, "Don't cry." And he said to him, "Be a man." That may not be politically correct to say it nowadays, but he said, "Be a man. Your children are in heaven. Have faith." SubhanAllah. Think about that for a second. You have just, now he himself, who was chiding the other, he himself had just lost 2 sons in a bombing. He himself had just had 2 sons murdered in a bombing. And the depth of his faith was amazing. That he told another man, "Have faith. Your children are in heaven." Heaven is not some mystical thing. It is a reality for him. The depth of his faith was amazing. And then he said the following. And then he said, "Forgive your cousins." What did he mean by cousins? He meant the Israelis. This is a Palestinian man at the bottom of a hospital who just lost his kids, saying, forgive your cousins. What faith, what depth of faith do you have to be able to do that? It is an example for all of us. It is an example for all of us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the Palestinians. Oh Allah, please guide us to the straight path. Please bless the Palestinians with shifa and relief. Please bless our sisters and brothers with the best of places in heaven and in this earth. Oh Allah, please bless our nation and our country to come off the wrong path and go to the right path. Oh Allah, please help us stand with those in the Jewish community that are fighting to protect their faith and to do what's right for their faith. Oh Allah, please guide this institution and other institutions that are working for your righteousness. Please take us into your loving and tender and merciful arms, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise you, we thank you. Iqamat as-salah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله هيا على الصلاة هيا على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Straighten your lines, fill your gaps, and make this prayer, say this prayer as if it is your last prayer. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. My dear brothers and sisters, as you walk out today, again, make sure you look at the donation table. Number 2, pick up a letter. And then we also have the New Horizons School, our next generation in the back. They are serving lunch for a fee. Please purchase one so you can support the school for our next generation. And then finally, this Sunday, there is a panel of Muslim elected officials who will be here at 12 o'clock on Sunday to talk about the situation in Palestine and what they as elected officials are, as Muslim elected officials, how they are coping with it, dealing with it, etc. Thank you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.